Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Gathering of Gachas, the only podcast that focuses exclusively on the games your parents don't want you to play. I'm Galen, the SoundGuy Firestone.
I'm Ranakel, vive la France, vive la Révolution.
Happy Bastille Day, everyone.
Indeed, the 14th of July. It's like the 4th of July, but more French.
Yep. So Kite is not with us today. He's taking some time off. He recently had a death in the family. We can't wait for him to come back. Please send him your love. He's going through some stuff right now.
Yes,
all the best to you, Kite.
We miss you, buddy.
But take your time, take whatever you need.
Absolutely.
Your mindset and your well-being matters.
Absolutely.
Now then,
on that very somber note, let's talk FFBE, I guess.
Yeah, let's talk card game players.
Setzer finally got a CG form?
If only.
If only, indeed.
So, we're having the new FF Type 0 units, and they were even global buffed.
I'm okay with one of them being buffed. The other one will never be used.
Actually, no. Both of them will be used.
Well, I mean, they'll be used by people who care about Ace. I don't.
Yes. True. So, let's still start with him, because he's the one of the CG.
Sure.
So, we have Wildcard Ace. His TMR being the aforementioned wildcard. It's basically a magic stat throw-in weapon in case you don't have original Ace's STMR.
Which is helpful.
Yeah. And it's 144 magic plus 20% magic passive and 35% demon and machine killer. So that's pretty
really solid.
Yeah, that's really solid for a TMR level option.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
And his STMR is the Vermilion Flag, an accessory with 60 magic, 50 spirits, and which auto-casts every turn an immunity to magic and spirit breaks.
That's kind of neat, but other than raw stats, it doesn't really feel like vital or anything.
Yeah, it's a bit niche. It's nice to have, but it's not why you'll chase after him.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the immunity to breaks is kind of nice, but, you know...
Honestly, the main use is to have him equip 2 better weapons and just use it to fill an accessory slot instead, and still have his TMR skill.
Yeah, that's fair.
And as far as equipment goes, other than that, he's a magic user that can equip rods and whips, so he's pretty covered.
Okay.
And throwing weapons.
Yeah,
but there aren't that many good ones of those in the game.
No, basically they all belong to Ace, as far as I can tell.
Yeah. Now, onto his skill set, he has the ability to imbue himself with lightning and ice element.
Okay.
And to imperil those through a system. We'll come back a bit later.
So, if he has the ability to imbue himself, I'm taking it that a lot of his skills are like physical attacks that do magic damage?
Exactly. If not all of them, in fact. His entire kit is the kind of magic that benefits from physical killers.
Which is
and
awesome.
From imbues. Yeah.
Awesome.
Including his limit break. To go to it real quick, because it's a usable part of his kit and one that's simple and standalone to explain.
Alright.
It's this kind of magic damage with damage numbers that are roughly equivalent to the effective modifier Ellie has. The main change being that it does hit multiple times instead of a single time. And it's his base modifier that matches Ellie's modifier once she uses her LB damage self-buff. meaning that if you have external LB damage buff, because Ace doesn't buff his own LB damage, you can reach much better results with Ace. Basically, his baseline is at his top.
Okay.
And then he has room to grow. And of course, being that he is a CG unit, there's also the undeniable advantage of having the LB guaranteed on turn 1.
Which is really cool and really powerful.
Yes.
Okay.
And really convenient for clearing a lot of content. I'm still throwing moons of people for most of the auto-farm content. It works really well.
Fair enough. Okay.
Now then, he has a permanent triple cast.
Yay.
No unlock, no nothing. Just his free cast go wild. Wild card.
That's fair, I guess.
Yeah. As far as his chaining families go, families plural, because he has Chaos Wave Awakened. And he also is the start of a trend that continued for a while in JP, which is Bolting Strike, as a magic chaining family.
Yeah. I was always kind of sad that Japan took our bolting strike, but then I also kind of shrugged because we knew it was going to happen eventually, and I'm just surprised it took that long.
Yeah, and it's a family that's not hard to chain, like Chaos Wave Awakened is, so we take it. Overall, most of his utility leans towards Chaos Wave Awakened, but his biggest source of power seems to be Bolting Strike related. So there's a bit of a choice here. It has a slight lean towards Chaos Wave Awakened overall, if you want to use his full kit, but he's very usable for both, is the point.
Okay.
Variety is good. We like variety.
We do.
Yeah. And speaking of a variety in the kit, he's not only a damage dealer, he also has some utility. First being that he's still a Type 0 unit, and Type 0 units that are 7-star have all the same skill, Ace being no exception. So 10 increase to the evocation gauge and 40 LB field to all allies at the cost of him self-dispelling and then dying.
Which is standard.
Yeah. And Rem will have that as well, of course.
Of course. Be silly if she didn't.
Yeah. And then, when you use some of his skill, you unlock other series of skill in tiers, basically. So, like, if you use, say, Short Burst Plus, which has a 30% chance to inflict Paralyze or Stop, you then unlock Giga Stop, which has a 50% to do that, then Terra Stop, which has a 60% to do that, or Death, and Pita Stop, which has a 100% chance to inflict Paralyze and Stop. And you have similar progression of effect for HP Charge, which is HP recovery and eventually barriers and re-raise. MP Charge, which is a full party staggered MP recovery. And the Exaburst skills, which also start with a pretty high modifier that gets even higher, and a 100% Ice and Lightning Imperil that gets all the way up to 120%.
Solid.
Yeah. And he can go straight to them thanks to Cut Cards Plus, only available on turn 7. But otherwise, you do have to ramp up a little over a few turns to reach the point where you can unlock for a select amount of uses the Exa and Petaburst skills. But then using these skills enables you to use these skills for the next use. So once they're unlocked, they keep unlocking themselves until you die. I think.
Just don't die.
Yeah, that sounds like don't die territory.
And one of the best ways to die is to kill the opponent right away, which he's certainly very good at. But that's not to say he doesn't have a little bit of an interesting bulk, not a reliable one, but besides the usual HP spirit defense, he also has a 20% native evasion and a 50% magic evasion.
Wow!
So, yeah, half the magic spell, also correction, 40% native physical evasion and 50% magic evasion. Magic evasion doesn't stack the way physical evasion does.
No, which always struck me as weird, but...
Yeah, on the other hand, it does allow units to not be full evade of everything but fixed damage.
Yeah, that would kind of require the developers to just do a ton of fixed damage forevermore, so...
Yeah.
Pretty much.
But the point here is that even without support, dodging 50% of basically all non-fixed sources of damage is pretty good.
Yeah, that's pretty great. I really have a hard time saying that's bad.
Yeah. And he also has the summoner skill where he can use any of the party summons. So that's a bit of flexibility this way too. You never know when you might need a Phoenix equipped to someone else.
Fair.
And double evoke damage doesn't hurt either. So yeah, he is well wounded this way with a bit of a use as an MP battery and some really good damage. In fact, so much that he is currently, by a small margin, the top damage dealer in the game.
I mean, good for him.
Yeah. Now then, to move on to...
onto the character I actually care about, the one who beat Malboro.
No. One last important thing about Wildcard Ace.
Drat.
The most important thing of all. His initials as a unit are WCA and his chaining family is CWA.
That just strikes me as problematic. Like, my dyslexia hate that. My dyslexia hates that already.
And if you do a typo when doing chain family's initials, well, no, you're calling for a unit. Anyway, moving on to Benevolent Beauty Rem.
Yes, and the character I actually care about. So, full disclosure, I really liked Rem in Type 0 once I figured out what she actually, did. Her initial, existence made her seem like a rogue. Once I realized she was actually your top black mage, which is weird, seeing as she was the new girl in the class. She, actually came into her own and became one of my favorites very quickly.
Sometimes you just have to magically stab people.
I guess. How is she in this game? Because I remember original version Rem I was really looking forward to, and then they buffed her into my favorite finisher for a very long time.
Yeah, she's still good. She's still very good. The general consensus is that basically you can go for this banner, which is a split banner, and if you pull one of the units, no matter which one it is, you're very happy about it.
Great. That's what I like to hear.
Yeah. So, TMR is 10% HP, 30% magic and spirit, 20% magic through dual wield, and plus 200% potency for healing items, which is more of a flavor bit.
Yeah, that's definitely not the most helpful thing, but that's not really the main draw of this, obviously.
Yeah. The main draw being some magic, some bulk, and this 25% magic through dual wield you might be missing from something else, sorry. Now, as far as her STMR go, Magic Dagger, 22 attack, 171 magic, 120 spirit doesn't hurt either.
No, it does not.
Innate ability to wield another weapon, and 100% LB field gauge. Pretty good.
That sounds pretty good.
Yeah, that's an STMR level magic dagger.
Yeah.
Similar weapon selection than Ace, except she can't equip throwing weapon, but can equip swords.
That makes sense. She's very good at stabbing stuff in game, so... Or at least she looks like she's very good at stabbing stuff. Again, that wasn't actually her job in Type 0, despite all appearances.
Of course. No. I think the best demonstration of the differences between her and Ace is to look at the LB,
Okay.
which has a lower power. Ace has a 72 modifier, while she has a 60 modifier. The same self-buff, and an Imperial that's higher and covers more elements.
Interesting.
So she has less raw brute power, but much more in the way of utility.
That's on brand, I think.
Yeah.
That's basically been her thing. There was back in the original Rem days, there were stronger finishers, but when it comes to doing finisher and then doing all sorts of other stuff, you really couldn't top Rem at the time.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I mean, with all of her heals and all the different kinds of magic she had and all of that,
Yeah.
like, she could
still there.
fit into just about any team.
Yeah, and it's still there. She even has triple cast magic.
Ooh.
With Q-Edge and Re-Raise as part of her kit.
That's nice.
Also Tornado and Freeze, I guess, but they do have 18 times bonus modifiers.
Extra module is nice.
Yeah?
Yeah. So I wouldn't say it's good, but it's a cute option. Especially Tornado, since she doesn't have wind elemental damage otherwise.
Unless we imbue her for it, because apparently she's also physical type?
Unless she's externally imbued, yes.
Okay. So, yeah.
And as far as her skills go, where Ace had mostly Curse Wave Awakened and some Bolting Strike, she has mostly Bolting Strike and some Curse Wave Awakened.
So it sounds like they basically put these two units out and they're like, you know what? Let's make them chain with each other, but not like the best for either, not the best for one of them.
I mean, that tracks with their relationship in game too. Like that's kind of how it was. They were on the same team, they were in the same class, but they didn't really interact with each other all that much, and weren't really positive with each other all that much.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
Yeah. So she has self-imbues and a variety of imperials for fire, ice, and lightning. Which of course indicates that, similar to Ace, most of her damage is magic-based physical damage.
Yep.
There are exceptions, which are her Chaos Wave Awakened chains, actually. Because while they do imbue her, they're regular magic damage.
Okay. Interesting.
Just something to keep in mind if you're going to use her as a CWA chainer.
Yeah, basically it seems like she's better with the Bolting Strike crowd.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will ask, are the ones that imbue her, the Chaos Wave ones, do they have an element attached to the magic when they imbue her, or are they just non-elemental?
Yeah, it's lightning damage, lightning imperil, and lightning element imbue.
Okay.
On same for fire and ice, and she also has the similar options with Bolting Strike, with also the same level of Imperial and Imbue. And
okay, so she's just better with the Bolting Strike for sure, but she can be used with the Chaos Wave.
Technically, her Chaos Wave Awakened modifiers are a tiny bit higher. I know it doesn't look like that on the wiki, but that's because she has these damage modifiers increased by her passive at level 120.
Right, and those don't calculate in, unfortunately, because the wiki doesn't really have a method for that.
Yeah, But they're roughly equivalent, so she is usable as a Coaster Vacant Chainer, but she really shines as a Bolting Strike Chainer, meaning that she'll probably get more and more partners as this becomes a more accepted Magic Chain family.
Yeah, or you could end up with a mixed chain situation, because I know Bolting Strike has been very popular here in Global for a very long time.
Yeah.
But that probably wouldn't be the best for like Dark Visions or something, where often they kind of require one kind of damage or the other.
True.
Yeah. Like, I wouldn't use her and Rico on the same team, even though they both Bolting Strike.
Yeah.
Now then, she has some other abilities, plenty of utility, in fact.
Okay.
Starting with the ability to have a mix of a Nezuna and a full party dispel. That's specifically our party, not the enemy.
Okay.
So no need for a dispel Gathering. This time it's intended.
That's incredible. Like, I've been wanting that for ages. So
yeah.
And then we kind of had it with Kryla, but now it's just like, this will fix everything wrong with you. Just rebuff.
Yeah. It's also pretty important in case you have a boss where you want to change elements, because this allows her to dispel the element she has imbued and re-imbue another without being dual element for a while.
Which is awesome.
Yeah. Especially given her imbues last a long time, the last 6 turns, so having a way to interrupt them as part of her kit is pretty good.
Yeah.
It does affect the full party. She doesn't have a single target option, though. So it's not perfect, but it's much better than the usual options we have.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very agreed.
Speaking of other things that are very useful, she still has Mana Alchemy, which is a 200 MP refill for all allies that only cost half a LB gauge.
Good.
Yeah, so that's very good for the big party-wide MP drain. And if she has full LB, that's 400 MP for the whole party.
That's a lot of MP.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
That's
also you can cast almost anything MP. Not quite. Yep. There are some things I know that cost a ridiculous amount, but...
Yeah. She also has a Break Sight, which becomes after using one of her cooldown Kill Sight, which is a full party demon and machine 50% killer, both physical and magical, and a 70% spirit break, and a bolting strike damage.
Here, have all the utility.
What's that? More utility? Why, how about a 2-turn full party 100% HP revive with attached to it a big regen and 50% generic damage mitigation?
Yeah, talk about utility.
And then she also has the Summon True Eidolon, which has her sacrifice herself.
Right, that's the usual Esper thing. Though if you're at that point, needing that with her, that's a little terrifying.
Yeah. And her basic use as a damage dealer, which is certainly a bit worse than Ace, but like she's still top 3 DPS. Basically, Ace and Ram sandwich Rico in the top of the charts. And her main damage skill is Flying Daggers ++.
Okay. Because 1+ is just not good enough anymore now, is it?
Yeah, by default it's plus, and when you use Accelerate it becomes the ++ version.
I mean, yeah, she sounds really good, like usual. She's kind of a Jill of all trades and has a lot of different things she could do, including keep up with the best damage dealers in the game, so she sounds like a real winner to me.
Pretty much.
And while both units were buffed, Ace's modifier from JP were more buffed across the board, while Ram only really had a +40% passive magic and a notable increase on the Dagger Boomerang to make it really stand out as her main damage skill.
Now, I did notice when looking through her skills that she didn't really have finishers.
No, she's not a finisher anymore.
tier, but you know what? It sounds like she's doing all right.
Yeah.
Seems that way.
She is pretty sought after, and especially in global, if we ever get the Chamber of the Vengeance version of Asiko, she's pretty sure to be very useful.
Yeah,
I
because
feel like
that is
that's
some
gotta
big
be
MP rate.
forthcoming, right?
Surely at some point, but of course there has been some rocky events regarding global development.
Yeah, obviously the pandemic has made things very interesting.
Yeah. Before we actually come back to that a little, there are two other units that aren't part of the... Well, one of them is the 4-star of the banner, it's Celestia,
Okay.
meaning that her TMR is 30% magic, 10% spirit, 30% evoke damage. Thank you very much.
Sure. That sounds like what's her name? The Elena's nemesis.
Morgana?
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of in
And
that same
then-
stat range.
Yeah, and then we have a Steadfast Soldier Machina,
Oh,
the
good.
free
Machina.
7-star.
Yeah, I love how
Free
this event has
free units
my
are good.
two least favorite characters in all of Type 0. Like, it has both of them, Ace and Machina.
Yeah. And they're both very useful, as it turns out, because Machina, well, the first, his free TMRs and STMR are pretty decent. The TMR is Levitain FF Type 0, which is 151 attack, 30% MP, and the ability to wield another weapon for free.
Okay.
That's good.
Any weapon that also gives you dual wield is pretty helpful, though maybe not so much these days.
Yeah. But still, 151 attack is a nice filler statistic when you don't really have any other free weapon at hand.
Yeah.
And his STMR is close, with decent defensive stats, but nothing to write home about. 33 attack, which is pretty good, and an innate 50% sword mastery, which is very good.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Now then, he can equip basically swords. Small swords, normal swords, big swords, Japanese swords.
Boring, thankless, lifeless swords. Got it. That
Yep.
song will never not be relevant.
He is bolting strike chaining, but his main utility is not as a chainer, it's as a breaker.
Okay,
He
I remember he was
has,
actually a pretty good breaker his last version.
Yeah, and
He was
he's
good.
still a
I
pretty
do
good
remember
breaker
that
this
they
version.
that the breaks did decay.
Yeah.
In his original version was the
Yeah, and
biggest
they've
issue I had with
kept
them.
that here.
Okay.
Like, he has on demand, for instance, either defense and spirit or attack and magic breaks, with 75% for 2 turns and 70% for 4 turns. He also has the ability to self-imbue with fire and lightning. He has an interesting skill which dispels an enemy and then breaks them for 70%, and then autocasts a break of 70% for the next 2 turns, which is great if it's an enemy you constantly have to dispel. That's actually very good utility.
That's actually pretty cool. Yeah, okay. Alright. I
Yeah.
dig it.
Ability also to imperil for 1 turn by 130% and 3 turn by 100% fire, ice, and lightning. All of these on bolting strike chains for added value, of course. And then some party-wide mitigation, which also grants a counter chance for all allies. Self-heal, which enables his triple cast. He has permanent double cast and unlockable triple cast for 6 turn on a 4 turns cooldown.
Okay.
So there's a bit of leeway here.
Yeah, it sounds like you can get away with not being forced to use it immediately. So if you need him for a break or for something else, you have a little bit of wiggle room there. That's nice.
And even though he's still a free unit, he also still is a Type 0 7-star unit.
Which means you have the... Yep.
And having it pretty much guaranteed to have in your party is a nice toolbox if you're not going for the other 2 units.
It doesn't hurt. And frankly, Machina is one of those
it
characters
hurts
I wouldn't
one of
mind.
them.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but I mean, I was just about to say, Machina is one of those characters, much like Snow. I don't mind their primary utility being lying dead in the dirt. That's okay with me.
Yes. But that's not really his primary utility. His primary utility is his LB, which, even if you don't upgrade it, is only 1 turn, 80% full set break.
How much does it take to charge?
32. So not even that much. RAM is like 40 Chris.
Okay.
So I mean, that's basically probably like every 2, maybe 3 turns.
Yeah, depending on your gear.
Yeah.
Basically, he is a little bit easier to make work than Edgar, because the only way Edgar's break lasts over 1 turn is if you have him deliberately take damage, which is not what you want to do in Dark Visions.
Yeah.
But having 3 80% full set breaks or on-demand 75% breaks, pretty cool for a free unit.
That is pretty cool for a free unit. Yep.
Yeah. The free roster is becoming scarier by the moment.
Good.
I mean, I'm cool with them making the free units good, you know?
Yeah. I am 100%
That's great for anybody who doesn't have like a bunch of people in their roster that they can pull from, you know? Any newer players or, you know, people who have been playing longer but haven't gotten, you know, good luck.
Yeah, sometimes you have good units, but you have a gap in your team, and if that gap is a breaker, Machina is great. Now then, let's move on to a bit of recent announcement, mostly related to the anniversary event.
Yeah, because it got, changed pretty good on account of the pandemic and people having to work from home and that causing all sorts of production delays.
Yeah, and we already knew from a video that the intent was to spread the anniversary over in 3 major steps over 3 months.
Right.
Then they announced we'd be getting Next Era tickets, because the first phase is named Next Era. But given that they've announced 3 types of those tickets, people naturally thought we'd get 1 ticket per step, and that the anniversary was nothing but these 3 steps being tickets, more tickets, and more tickets, and that was it. That's not how I understood it, but apparently enough people got it mistaken that they had to clarify things. This which happened in 2 ways. One is a bit discreet, but it's confirmation that we're going to get another batch of those tickets we've been having.
Ooh.
For Next Era 4. Meaning that it's not the same number anymore, it's more free stuff for us, so that clears it up.
More free stuff, hooray!
Yeah. I mean, I've been having a lot of blues from these tickets, given that they don't have anything guaranteed, which is a bit iffy for some people, but it's only part of the event.
Yeah, I mean, it's
free stuff. So.
Okay, you don't get anything free. It'd be awful if you paid for it, but...
and the paid option is not one of these tickets. It's, here's the pool these tickets gives you. Give us $25 and we'll give you the unit you want in this pool.
Yeah.
And we like those kind of guarantees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm all for that.
If you're ready to shell $25 for a Mastermind Zone, you can have him.
I mean, if you're the kind of person who pays in, that's not a terrible deal. And if it's just give me the unit, then it's not gambling, so I can't really say too much against it. At that point, it's just a matter of your own personal value judgment.
Exactly.
Pretty much.
But the offer is on the table. It's clear in... I like that.
Yeah.
No, then they've also had a letter from the producer to clarify a few things here. So it reads, "Hello everyone. First of all, we hope that you and your families are safe and well, as during these trying times there is nothing more important than your health. Now, in regards to our 4th anniversary, we understand that there is a great sense of unease within the community. As we've mentioned before, our 4th anniversary will consist of 3 different stages, and we are currently in the first one, 4th anniversary next era. Today we would like to announce that 4th anniversary Evolution will be the second stage taking place in August. To interrupt a bit the reading, the fact that basically, instead of having one phase per month, and instead having the first phase extend for a month and a half, maybe a bit over that even, is a bit weird, but at least now we know what's coming. And I assume we didn't know what's coming before, because they probably couldn't commit to a date. No, they can, so they tell us.
Yeah, considering how badly the fandom tends to respond whenever something has to change, even for good reasons, I don't blame them for keeping mum until they had something confirmed.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like, I'd be doing what I could to try to avoid unnecessary, what's the word I'm looking for? Unnecessary,
changes?
No, not changes. Unnecessary backlash.
Yeah.
Especially since I don't know if this has changed, but FFBE fans like taking every little thing as a personal attack. Or at least they did back when I was still playing.
Yeah. And
I doubt that's changed much.
I mean, the fact that they seem to believe the anniversary was just tickets when they've clearly said it's not.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
That there's a bit of touchiness still.
It's so pessimistic, but I think by now, like, we've reported on this game week after week for a year now, and this is the first time I mean, I don't want to say this is the first time, but it's like, by now, it feels like we should be, like, past this, right?
Yeah.
You would think.
Like, okay, they've actually gotten better and consistent and are not terrible. Like, why is this still going on after weeks of this?
Yeah,
I can't even remember the last time they made a major blunder.
Improved their communication as well.
Yeah.
The most surprising part of it all is that I still haven't been called a gummy shield yet. I'm disappointed. Get on it, internet.
Don't do that. What he just said, don't do that. We just talked about this last week. Don't do that thing that he's joking about. Do not. He may be joking, but I don't want to invite that.
Good. Now then, in this letter, they also announced that in mid-August, they'll be having a 4th anniversary live stream, where they will share with us their upcoming plan for FFB Global. It's basically a replacement for the FanFest because it's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
For obvious can't meet up reasons.
Yeah, obvious we don't want to kill people reasons, which is,
Yeah.
Insert political joke here. Please don't do that either.
So yeah, and we'll have a lot of news. There's also going to be announcement regarding what will happen during the 3rd stage of the celebration, and the usual kind of game live with rewards that are probably going to be rigged, so we have the best chance to get the maximum rewards and the likes.
I remember that happened at the FanFest, how we earned that really, really good step-up banner, and I'm like, there's no way they were never going to There's no way they were ever going to hold that back. That banner had to happen. It was way too good. People were going to spend on that, and they knew it.
And I mean, it makes sense. There's a big celebration. You don't want to walk away celebrating because looks like you didn't put a rainbow.
Yeah, so I get that.
And like, with the way they've organized this, they know that. So it makes sense even on that level that the anniversary events aren't just tickets with no rainbows guaranteed.
Yeah.
Wouldn't make sense. Oh, yeah. But yeah, basically, stay tuned for what will happen in a month first time of recording. One interesting theory I've heard that I just have to repeat because it's too juicy to keep to myself.
Okay.
Is that the first phase is called Next Era, which starts with an N. It's not a pun about a changing family this time.
I know where this is going, and you're not the only one who's thought of this.
You're not.
I haven't thought of this. I just heard it, and now I'm repeating the fact that the second phase starts with an E, and the first phase could start with an O for Neo-Visions.
Yeah. A lot of people have been assuming that they're going to push up Neo-Visions for global for the anniversary. That's been
we'll find out
fairly common refrain. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm not sure about the NEO hint and clues being dropped, but I was still on the camp that by end of August or September, we should probably get, if not the actual releases, at least confirmation and knowledge of the way this will work in global.
Yeah.
So yeah, interesting things to look ahead and good units to have right now. There's not that much firing off in all cylinders in FFBE, but what we have is pretty good.
Yeah, no, it sounds pretty good. I mean, obviously, Exelian says, "Oh, for October." Yeah, no, that's okay. Sure.
So yeah, I think it's a point of stay tuned and consider planning ahead and anticipating things. And yeah, because things are going to change pretty drastically pretty soon.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And I think we can pretty safely assume that Neo-Visions are going to happen in some form or another. Like, they're not going to change something that big. So, you know.
Hey, what if we took all of these sprites that are already made and did nothing with it? Genius.
Exactly.
Well, you say nothing, but the truth is, like, they've got to do, like, the translation and whatnot, but yes.
Yeah, of course. No, what I meant is precisely they're going
he meant not use them.
Yes.
Yes.
So it's all a matter of having a little bit of patience, even if the anniversary fired only and takes a while to ramp up to the really exciting parts.
I mean, again, I can't blame them for this. People are sick, and we're trying not to get them sicker, so keeping people working at home, while maybe, yes, disrupts workflow, is still the safest and best thing for everyone. Wear your masks, people.
Now then, speaking of people that fall sick and then starts walking towards you menacingly, what's going on in Arknights?
Okay, that was a terrible transition. The transition I was going to go with was going to be... Well, on the subject of anniversaries, we have some news from Arknights. How about that for a transition? We like that a little better, don't you think?
Well, it's only a half anniversary.
It's still an anniversary. Yes, it's the half year warm up anniversary. It's an anniversary.
I refuse to accept this as nothing but a stretch.
Compared to your like awful coronavirus joke, like I feel like out of the two of us, mine at least was still related to gachas. You're the one who went out into real life land.
Yeah, and you're the one playing with a heavily militarized pharmaceutical company.
All right, I can't actually argue that point. Okay, well, I'm still going to go with the anniversary one because a couple of the things I was talking about for the anniversary one are things that are actually happening.
Ooh.
Point in case. First and foremost, well, they announced, the first thing they announced was a new banner. And that is hey, pay $25 and get a guarantee banner. We like these. It's not a...
Is it a guaranteed on banner?
It's a guaranteed limited pool, so it's one of 3 units depending on which ticket you choose.
Okay. So curated. Nice.
Yeah, so there's 3 different tickets you can choose from. Each of them are guaranteed. Each of them have one of 3 you can get. Let me just open this up real quick. Here we go. So, your 3 choices are an alpha ticket, which gives you a choice, not a choice, but gives you 6-star operators limited to Hoshiguma, Ajafala, and Chen, and yes, 6-star is guaranteed. The second one is the beta, which is Ifrit, Saria, and Silverash, and the last one is, I think, Gamma? It's a Y-looking thing?
Yep, that's a Gamma.
Hey, I got it right. Anyway, the Gamma ticket is Exvius, Siege, and Scotty. This is a collection of some very beefy people.
Yes, it is.
I would say that this is me usually. Kind of the only non-desirable one here is Scotty, and even she could do work for you. I've complained about her before. She's very limited in use compared to some of these other ones. Anyway, it's $25, and you get one of those tickets. One of those gives you a 6-star guaranteed from one of those 3 pools. 3 pools. And it's a 10 pull ticket, so you still have your normal chance of getting something else. But your 6 stars are always going to be guaranteed to those pulls. And you're getting at least one guaranteed 6-star. So,
regarding the way the pools are organized, are there basically are the 3 units in a pools of similar roles?
No. The first one is Mage, Tank, Stabber. The second one is also Mage, Tank, Stabber. But then the third one is Shooter, Vanguard, and I don't even know what you'd call Scotty.
Beefy Guard,
yeah.
I mean, he's kind of a stabber.
Kind of a stabber. So there's a stabber in all of them.
There is a guard in all 3 of them, yes.
But, like, compared to...
She's a stabber with tank written in black marker on top of her forehead.
Kind of, except she doesn't actually do a tank's job. What tanks tend to do is they block 3, so you have Hoshiguma and Saria on Alpha and Beta, respectively, who both block 3. Scotty only blocks 1 and beats up that one thing. She's very, very good at beating up that one thing, but that's the extent of her job right there, is beating up that one
1v1 me IRL.
Whereas Chen
is a block 2 and has a ton of, like, extra utility. She could be a boss killer, she could be a field clearer, depends on which skill you give her. And then Silverash is
more attack speed than Scotty as well.
Yeah, she's way faster at attack speed. She may hit harder aggregate, but yeah. Well, yes and no. She is slightly more on paper, but then her attacks all hit twice.
True.
So it ends up being faster in real time as a result. And then Silverash is a ranged guard. He sits and throws attacks at 80% of his damage at range and then goes back to 100% when they hit him. And then he has, like, a crazy field clear skill 3 and can see through stealth. So, like, yeah, he's also really good.
If you need, especially if you need, like, all 3 of the units and you're willing to spend into the game, obviously, because this is a $25 purchase.
It's not cheap.
If you need, especially if you need, like, all 3 of the units from one of them, you know, this is obviously a tremendous value.
Oh, yeah.
If you only need a couple of them, you know, it's still a good value, but just do be aware that you might get one that you already have.
Yeah. Like, I'm actually seriously considering, and I've never actually paid for pulls on this game yet, but when you're talking guarantees, you're no longer gambling, you're just getting something.
I mean, you are kinda gambling, but between 3 good options you want, I assume.
Yeah.
So
basically.
Yeah, and we and like in my case, I'm looking at the Ajafala Chen Hoshiguba banner. So my choice is if I get any of those, I get Ajafala, who is a mage I've desperately wanted for a very long time, as I'm kind of short on single target mage firepower. I get a cost reduction for Chen, which would be very nice because she's expensive. She costs 22. And then I get, at the current upgrade level for Hoshiguba, she would actually be my most duplicated unit, and that would be an extra 30 defense just flat. So that's about 20 levels for free of stats. If she's a level cap, well, then she's just overcapped on her own natural stats if I do that. So, all told, she just kind of, that particular one looks really good to me. None of the others are anywhere near as good, though pretty much everything here would be good.
I think one of you, but it could be better for other people.
Yeah, it really just depends on who needs what and if you're willing to spend the money.
And in general, one of the good ways to think about any sort of deal is, what's the worst case scenario? If the worst case scenario is still worth what you want to put in the game, go for it.
The worst case scenario is another fairly sizable boost for my best tank.
Yeah.
Like, that's the worst case scenario.
Well then.
Yeah.
And it's not like they're gonna bring one of those bundle every week.
No, it's not. So, 25 for a guarantee, I'm seriously considering it. I haven't made a decision on it yet, but the fact is you have these 3 guaranteed pulls. You can only do one of them. They said you can only buy one of these tickets and make your selection at that point. So, choose wisely. But it is still a guaranteed 6-star. Yeah, what Space said. There is no bad, there is only less good. I personally consider Scotty kind of a troll. I don't like... Scotty and Chen, you could almost directly compare, and Chen comes out ahead pretty much every time.
I only slightly disagree with that. I think that actually Scotty and Chen just feel different mission profiles.
Maybe they do on paper, but Chen can absolutely do the I'm going to block a gigantic thing and murder it because she has Shadowless. Like, I've used her for this exact purpose.
Also, both these units aren't even on the same headhunting permit.
No, they're not. So,
correct.
If you have a clear preference, there you go.
Yeah, exactly. They're all on different permits, which is great. The next thing that got announced is the new banner, which kind of weirdly does not introduce a new 6-star, just a pair of 5s.
Huh.
Yeah, the 6-star on the banner of Exvius, and I already have 3 of her, so I'm like, alright. Sure. Fun fact, I've never actually pulled Exvius from a banner. I've only ever gotten her from free pulls.
We take those.
Oh yeah, and I've already promoted her so much I have her talent upgrade. I've gotten so many dupes of her. I've gotten 6 top operator tags lifetime. Half of them have been Exvius.
Yeah, he's really lucky on top
I am really lucky on top op tags. I'm really lucky on top op tags.
I've gotten 3, and that was pretty good lucky.
That was pretty good luck. I'm not gonna deny that. Anyway, so Exvius is the 6-star on the banner. She's a launch unit. You can get her from top operator tags for free, so she's not really worth talking about again at this juncture. The short version is if you need someone to put a whole lot of bullets in something, except no substitutions. She's an angel with a submachine gun, and we love her for it. Anyway, the two new units that come out are Reed and Broca. Now, Reed, she is a Vanguard of the same type as Grani, which is a deploy point on kill Vanguard. And her job is just hitting things really, really hard. Much like Scotty, at least kind of if you squint at it, she is a block 1 who just stabs the crud out of them. Her second skill, which is the one you're going to look at as a 5-star, gives her 60% flat attack, and then gives her another 25% extra damage in magic damage, in arts damage.
This is at skill level 7.
At skill level 7, yes. Gives her another of arts damage. So effectively 85 at 25% is arts damage, which is really rare, having a source of melee arts damage. We like having those. I just promoted the crud out of Indra for that exact reason. We need more of that. But again, she's a block 1. She isn't going to be as tanky as someone who's meant to take on bigger things. She's basically meant to kill a whole lot of small things. Oh, I'm sorry. One last thing about the skill. It actually doubles her deploy point gain on kills. So if she kills something with the skill is active, then that gives 2 deploy points instead of 1, which is obviously huge.
Ooh.
Right.
Yeah. So
and additionally, like Grani and other vanguards like her, whenever you pull the unit off the field, then you also get the full cost that you spent to deploy them back.
Right, you don't get a truncated retreat cost. A truncated retreat refund. You get all whatever she costs, 10 or 12. So, which, again, all of this makes her really solid. If you need a deploy on kill Vanguard, I would absolutely recommend pulling for her. The other one is Broca, and following with the theme, he is a block 3 hit all guard, similar to the last 6-star at E2. And that, much like Blaze, and then, unlike Blaze, Broca's a rare male in this game. They do exist.
Ooh.
The cast is like 80% female. It's a little weird. Obviously, they want those waifu dollars, but like, come on, yo. He, on his skill, will do some arts damage. Again, melee arts damage. We like this.
Also, his weapon is a mix between a buzzsaw and a drill.
Yeah.
A giant.
Pretty much everyone in this class uses some sort of chainsaw except Savage. Savage is the exception. She does with a hammer what everyone else does with a giant power tool. So, this makes me like Savage just that much more.
Every poem looks like a nail.
I will say that in our research, we did find 2 different sites that gave differing information.
There was a discrepancy of information. Game Press, which is one of the primary wikis for Arknights, only had Broca at block 2 for some inexplicable reason. We don't believe that to be accurate. There's a
Game
GitHub.
Press also had an aship.github.
Aship.github also had it correctly at 3. GamePress seems to believe that at E2, all of this type only has block 2 at E2 at Elite 2 rank, and that's not accurate to any of them. I know that for a fact.
They had
Savage,
that
Blaze,
for Blaze, Savage, Estelle, Spectre. All of those they had errors on, so we're pretty sure that the A-ship info is correct.
Yes.
But
grain of salt.
We did find this.
Yeah, we can't say to an
absolute
certainty. So if it does turn out to only be a block 2 at E2, that would actually not be the worst thing on the planet. I don't find myself using this particular mission profile all that often, largely because of survivability issues. If you're block 3 and you don't have tank stats, you're going to be in trouble if you're not careful.
Unless you're somebody like Spectre who can, regen your own HP.
Yeah,
and
or Blaze,
also,
because her skill 2 increases her range, so you can just park her behind a tank and let her hit the things the tank is blocking, which I actually think is one of the coolest things about her.
I will say one interesting thing about Broca is that when he's blocking 2 or more enemies, he does gain that extra attack and defense from his talent.
Yes.
Up to 12% at E2, and it increases by 2 more percent up to 14 if you get 5 of them.
Right. So, obviously, how do I put this?
He's not a tank, but he does get tankier as he starts blocking.
Yeah.
As he blocks 2 or more people.
Truthfully, I think his primary job is kind of swarm prevention. And
I would argue that's generally the primary job for these kinds of units.
But he can hold his own, not as much as Spectre can, because Spectre has her patented "I can't die" button.
As well as HP regen at E2.
Yeah. So yeah, there's some things to be said here, but generally speaking, neither of these units will go wrong. I'm going to be pulling on this banner. I'm going to be pulling. I want these units. I'm not going to be pulling super hard.
At least to the bonus.
Yeah, I'll be pulling to the bonus.
Knock yourselves out.
Yeah. this is a worth a banner. Both of these units are pretty darn good.
Yep.
And the last thing that was announced, and this is worded very strangely, so I'm not exactly sure what it means. If my phone would please turn back on. What the heck happened there? Thank you.
I think I understand what it means if you want me to cover it.
No, I got it. Basically what it is it says, during the event, more rewards will be added to daily missions, including chips for different classes to teach your battle record. Basically, it seems to me that they're boosting drop rates and rewards on the daily farm stages. So
I
shop vouchers and stuff like that.
don't think that's correct.
You don't think that's accurate?
From what I understand it to say, we have the daily missions, right? And they have certain rewards. I think what this means is on the daily missions, they're basically increasing the rewards. They're adding on that they can drop chips for classes or LMD or what have you.
Okay.
Because it's talking about the daily mission. As opposed to stages. I think they would word it as the daily stages or something if they were talking about the stages where you farm things.
Or maybe daily operations or something. I can see what you're saying. The short version is we don't actually know what's going on, and clearly both of us read this in two very different ways, and I have no way of telling you which one is accurate. Either way, there's going to be more free stuff somewhere. We just don't know exactly where.
Surprise free stuff.
Yeah. Well, not that much of a surprise.
Not exactly a surprise, because they did tell us it was coming, but we just don't know exactly what form it's going to take.
Yeah. And I'm going to kind of put that, I'm going to put that up to either, translation or...
Yeah.
Language barrier. Just being vague and a little silly.
Yeah.
That said, none of this is bad. The paid ticket looks really good. The new, mini event, it's free stuff, and then the new banner is solid, and you have a much higher chance of actually getting a unit because your first 10 pulls guarantee you at least a 5-star.
Yep.
So
we take those.
Yeah. So for those of you pulling on either of these banners, good luck.
Yep. Speaking of guarantees on your polls, why don't we go ahead and talk about SINoAlice?
All right.
They actually have announced their first step-up banner that's going to be in the game. And there's a guaranteed S rank on each pull, on each step. The first 2 steps are basically a 5 pull, and they're going to cost the same as the 2 of them together cost the same as a normal 10 pull. So each one of those is going to cost 150 crystals.
Okay.
And then the next 3 steps are 300 crystals, and they are 11 pulls.
Okay, now you said a guaranteed S rank. Is that the highest rank, or is there higher above that?
So each of the first 4 steps has a guaranteed S rank. The 5th step has an SR rank guaranteed.
Okay.
Which is the highest rank?
No. Correct. SR is the highest rank that you can pull. You can evolve the weapon to one higher rank than that, but as far as pulling, SR is the highest that I am aware of.
Okay.
So, that's obviously, good value. We do...
It's cheaper pulls at the start and guarantees at the end. The kind of things we like.
Well, it sounds like it's all guarantees. It's just lower rarity. Lower rarity guaranteed at first.
Well, the first 2 pulls, exactly, they have a guaranteed S rank, S plus. So it can be an SR, but it's guaranteed to be at least an S rank. Yeah. And normally for an 11 pull, you have a guaranteed S rank. So I guess the steps 3 and 4 aren't really special in that regard.
Yeah, they're just filler step. They're not even... I like that at least in World of Visions, which had a similar systems, they at least threw during the 2 filler steps a bit of a filler here's 50 evolution materials of your choice. it helps them make them feel more like steps rather than just a flat plateau you have to cross to get to the good stuff.
Right. Yep, and that's fair. This banner it does feature the minstrel type class for Little Mermaid, and she was recently added to the game, I believe, in the new story chapter that they added. They actually added that.
Well then, tell us more about this new story chapter.
I haven't actually gotten to it yet, so I can't really tell you that much about it. But basically, they did add some chapters to the story, and so that's there to clear, and get the rewards from and all that stuff.
Excellent.
And then they also announced a 1 million player celebration for a login promotion. It lasts for 4 days.
Pretty good already.
Yeah, I'm actually. Yeah. I have to admit, I'm a little surprised SINo reached 1 million. I feel like it was almost too niche, but I'm guessing after the pop from Automata, Tarayoko is still a hot commodity. I kind of thought people would be cooling on that, but I guess not.
Well, I don't know. I mean, obviously, it's possible that some of these are alts or whatnot. You never know. But,
I refuse to believe it's a plurality, though.
There are 1 million accounts.
At the very least, what we know is that, there's 1 million accounts, and it's not a handful of people that downloaded the game 1 million times to do their rewards, because the rewards
rewards are just hit a button,
Yeah, so that wasn't used to pad up numbers, at least.
No.
Yes, that's true. And so for the rewards for this, it lasts for 4 days. And each day the rewards increase. So day 1 you get 10 crystals, day 2 20 crystals, day 3 30 crystals, and day 4 40 crystals. So you can get a total of 100 free Twilight crystals just for logging in for 4 days.
On top of the login bonuses you already get.
Right, on top of the normal login bonuses. Yeah, extra stuff. We like free stuff.
Free stuff is good.
Yes.
And then, so, not a ton going on in the game right now, but I did want to cover those few things. Additionally, I wanted to cover kind of my thoughts on the PvP battles. The guild battles that are in the game.
Because it's not really something we've covered, and it's an important part of the game, I believe.
Yes, I would argue that it is a very important part of the game. Even one of your daily missions is to participate in the guild battle. And that daily mission allows you to basically unlock the last daily mission, which is complete all the other daily missions. So it kind of unlocks 2 missions just by participating in that guild battle. Guild battles are pretty fun, I would say. They do feel pretty snowbally.
How do you mean?
If one team gets very far ahead, then it's like not even super far ahead, but like if they end up getting ahead a little bit in the beginning, then that lead can be pretty hard to overcome, I would say.
Right.
Even if they're relatively evenly matched. I feel like I've participated in multiple of them at this point, and they definitely, like, it felt like either we kind of slaughtered the other team, or they ended up slaughtering us, at least by the end of the battle. At the beginning of the battle, it usually feels relatively close, but then basically one team ends up building up more buffs or debuffs on their team or the other team, obviously, and things kind of snowball out of control from there. But I would say, as far as a system where you have I would argue this is definitely a very multiplayer focused gacha game. And we did mention some of that last week, but just the guild battles do definitely increase that feeling more. It's pretty fun. I'm playing pretty casually. I'm not going to be spending anything on it, to be honest.
Well, you're like universally free to play, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think I've ever heard you spend on one of these.
I do spend on occasion in Arknights.
Okay.
But definitely, I think it's a fun game. It's not going to be for everybody, especially with the different focus that it has on PvP.
Yeah, I've heard that.
I haven't really touched it since then. It's not for me.
Yeah. I think once you do build up a solid group of friend units, then you can actually choose what friend units you bring along to your battles, which I think does make a difference in how well your battles can go. You can go from having anybody be able to join your battles to only friends or guild members, or you can choose to select certain people that you can bring along. So I think after you build up a solid group of friend units, the RNG on the units that come along, you can definitely basically mitigate that entirely. You're still only controlling one unit, but you can bring along units that are going to be useful for you in that fight, as opposed to spend the dice and you get what you get.
Yeah, as we keep saying, anytime you can get a guarantee or something you can actually move for, even in a situation like this, as opposed to just hoping for the best, it's always a good thing.
Right. So that's kind of my thoughts on it. It's pretty fun. I don't know how long I'll end up playing on it. But I kind of want to give it a little bit more than just a day or two opportunity. Just so that I can, at the very least, as I'm playing on it, I can continue recording for you guys and let you guys know. Yeah,
this is a game I really wanted to get into, especially considering how much of a fan I usually am of Taro Yoko. And I'll spare you guys the diatribe this time.
Yeah, I will say that Geister did give us some more info as well. It is, you definitely can do this free to play, but
yeah, it sounds like it's really tricky to excel at it.
That I think does require self control and
then the thing about the guild battles that I keep hearing is they're scheduled in real time.
Yes. So that is another point that I forgot to mention. The guild battles are scheduled at a specific time each day.
I hate that.
Couldn't tell you why.
I absolutely despise that.
But that definitely does. If you want to get the most out of it, you do need to join a guild that is at a time when you can participate.
Which is quasi-impossible for someone like me with a schedule that's all over the place.
So are the guild battles live or asynchronous?
Guild battles are live.
Okay, so that's probably why they just match people that are on the same time frame with the battle. But I don't know.
I think also I think as the game goes on, probably the matchmaking will improve, just because right now there's such a small pool of data for guilds. You got to have at least some kind of a pool of data to pull from in order to make good matchmaking. So I think right now the matchmaking is a little bit wonky.
Yeah.
Maybe not very accurate. And also, guilds are probably improving fairly rapidly, at least some of them at this point. So
we're still very much in the early stage of the game.
Right. Exactly. And also the fact that, it's a new game, people joined it just to try out a new game, and then, for a lot of people it's not necessarily going to be for them, like Rana, for instance.
Yeah.
Right.
So, if you're not playing anymore, then you can't join the guild battle. So, there's also the fact that the AI is, dumb, but that's AI for you.
Yeah, that's not really surprising. I've seen how non-AI, like Arknights and its auto, tries to handle things, and considering the fact that I'm trying to actually replace Angelina, of all people, for a strat because the auto keeps messing her up, like, that is sad.
Let me tell you about Mont throwing rocks at the worst possible targets again.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so all in all, I would say so far it's a pretty fun game. I'll keep you guys posted on it.
Yeah, all of you people who say robotic cars are going to be safer than real people driving are clearly not paying attention to how dumb machines are.
Now then.
And I brought the conversation to a screeching halt on that one.
I'll be honest, I don't have any good transition to the main topic at this point, do you?
It's time for our main topic! How about that? Best I got. We're kind of all over the place and out of it because of the because of what happened with Kite.
Now then, the topic for today isn't really our usual fare of here is some inner working of gacha game that is going to steal your firstborn and eat it, which is what we usually come around to do. Instead, I wanted something a little bit more relaxed and a little bit more personal about the current hosts we have, the games we're playing, and both the big units and events we're looking forward to the most, and those we've looked forward to the past, and how that turned out. Because for all the constant trickle of new units and off-banner novelty that hey, I can use that, sure, a lot of the play style and the kind of lifestyle of playing a gacha game revolves around these huge landmarks, these units you save for, because that's how you play one such game if you're not full whale.
Right.
Which none of us are.
No, although I will admit I kind of, sort of used to be, with an emphasis on the sort of, because I don't think I still rose to that level, but I was still seriously overspending.
Yeah. Even then, no matter the spending level, this wasn't even a case of you need to get every single unit, no exception.
No, certainly not.
Yeah.
That's thankfully never been the case for any game I played. The closest...
And I think that's the case for most players.
The closest I came to that, and that's mildly tangential to gachas, but still had the same recurring weekly events and whatnot, was actually the year-long cycle of Hitman 2, and that was, obviously, none of that was paid except for the season pass, so it wasn't actually anything I had to worry about. That was about the only exception, but for the most part, I tend to be fairly measured in at least my targets.
And that progression for Hitman 2 will carry over to Hitman 3.
I can't wait for Hitman 3. The early look of Hitman 3 just makes me so happy. But we're not talking about Hitman 3. Yes.
We're talking about gacha games.
Correct.
And we're playing and what we're looking towards.
Well, Rana, this was your big this was your topic, so why don't you go ahead and start us off? What are some of the things you're working on right now?
All right. Well, the timing isn't a coincidence either, because there's two things that are pretty notable. First, on World Visions, there's the fact that we haven't talked about it because it hasn't released yet, but we already know that this week is going to be Venera's release.
Right, you've actually been talking about her for a while.
Yeah, and because that was my main objective after the FFT banner, and now she is going to get released in 1 day and 4 hours.
Oh, wow.
So,
totally not.
I haven't. I just counted it now because that made sense in the context. I don't have a problem. I don't have any. And curse you if you even suggest otherwise.
I didn't suggest anyone.
I wasn't suggesting anything, Rana.
Problem.
Weird defensiveness aside. She's definitely one of the main units I'm looking forward to. And unlike the FFT units and the Orlando, I've got this one I will go hard to get her as powerful as possible right from the get-go. But there isn't as strict a window, and if you missed it, you locked out of the unit having full power for 3 months or more.
Right.
So that's a nice way to have something to look forward to, but also kind of take the stress off of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of the balance I'm most comfortable with. To the point where I've said it before, I've got Freyavia, which many other people wanted, by accident.
Because you clicked the wrong banner.
Yeah. And I haven't leveled her up in any way, shape, or form. She's level 40. Well, she's level 35 because of Chocobo Expedition and the First Awakening, which costs almost nothing, and certainly no resources that are better spent in other units. And aside from that, I've even made a text file with the various materials I need to awaken the Genera, or any other unit for that matter, at full power, which is pretty useful because this allowed me to pre-farm things instead of having to face a wall and having to crash through it. And I'm hoping to have her at a decently high level pretty early on, which will feel nice because I've been behind the curve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Preparation is good.
Yeah, and I've been behind the curve in power level at this point. The only level 99 unit I'm using right now is Mount, and he's not max rarity or anything.
Right, he's the free character, right, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've just pulled the Engelbert, which would work as a replacement tank, definitely. But I don't have the resources to invest in him yet because of the thinner rate. So it will be nice not only to have this unit, but also to know that all of the yarn bones and rainbow fragments for a while, I can throw them in other units a bit more freely now.
Right.
And yeah, as I've said, I've been behind the curve, which was a bit annoying for Personal Tower, because right now I've seen, in particular, Tom and Ryan on the Discord are talking about the trouble with the floor 19 and 20. I'm having trouble at floor 16, and the difficulty works up hard on the last floors, but that's the price I have to pay to stay true to what I want to do in this game.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so that's a thing, and the other interesting thing about looking forward to units is that, of course, on the FFBE front, we have the New Visions units that are going to come out. But I've looked over it. I've even wrote down a list of all the NV units in JP. And right now, the only one that kind of excites me in terms of both looks and utility is one I already have. So that's strange.
And who would that be?
It's Pyriglacial Laswell. I think his change of stance looks really cool.
All right.
But aside from that, I mean, the first unit they awakened is still, as of now, in JP, the top DPS. Tifa is still top DPS.
Yes! My girl!
Yeah. But
I fell so completely in love with her remake. Like, I was so shocked at how good of a character she was in that game.
And like right now, new Visions units, so ones we don't already have. There's a new Cloud, Rain, Aerith, Akstar, Sol, Gabron, Firion, and the summer duo of Blue Mage Fina and Daisy.
Didn't they announce what's her name? Oh crud! I cannot believe I'm forgetting her name. She was one of my favorite characters. Armor, 2 swords, free. Banner unit.
Lauren?
I'm sorry, Lauren. Yes, thank you.
Lauren? Yes.
I believe they announced her for Neovision as well.
That's the Awakenings. So, like, I already have a few Laurens. I don't think I have as many as I need for that. But, like, there are Awakenings for Tifa, Wet 14, Vegas of the Dark, Cloud, Pure Glacial Laswell, Aileen, Dark Fina, Blossom Sage Sakura, Balfier, Lauren, Dark Knight Leon, Emperor, Summer Falcon Citra, and Summer Fina indeed.
Dark Knight Leon, huh?
Yeah, apparently.
I would not have called that as a choice. That's cool. Shout out to FF2.
Yeah, I'm hoping they go for another Dark Knight because while I have a couple of Leons, I have like 8 Dark Knight Lunafs.
That would be a good one. I mean, it seems like it's got to be forthcoming at some point, right?
Came out too.
Yeah. But like those are an increase in power level to look forward to, but one that won't necessarily involve the same level of saving for resources, because if you already have the units, you already have the powered up units.
Yeah, because my understanding is you need to get STMR first before you can upgrade them.
Yeah.
Well, there's STMR Moogles for that, so that's not exactly a barrier in and of itself.
Yeah, and even with that, let's see. I have STMRs already for Tifa, Wet 13, Vegas of the Dark, Cloud, PG Laswell. So far, that's 5 for 5.
So you're already heading towards you're heading towards a free best DPS because you already have Tifa's STMR.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And so that's an interesting thing because that system is pretty good, but I don't really know what to say for at this point. I mean, right now my best target is comes out before Neovisions, and it's going to be the 3rd batch of Esper units because Bahamut Dark Fina is pretty good as a DPS and pretty cool in my opinion. And there's Lead Lakshmi, which works great as a breaker, and Phoenix Jake, which is a Regina replacement. So they're all units I'm interested in having. And they're going to be power crept on raw numbers, but right now we don't really have at an NV tier units quite like this.
Right.
We don't have a dedicated breaker. We don't have a Regina style one-shot finisher. And I mean,
honestly,
we do have a Bahamut Fina replacement in Sol.
Is good for. Oh wait, that's Jake replacing.
Yes, no, that's the opposite.
Never mind.
That's the worst case scenario for you.
Yes, pretty much.
So don't go for that banner.
I mean, I don't play FFB anymore, so I don't think we have to worry about that.
All the more reason not to. But given that you do play some other game, why don't you tell us a bit about what you're looking forward to the most these days, both in Arknights and SINoAlice?
Well, SINoAlice, I know they're releasing 2B. From what I've heard anyway, I don't actually have confirmed news about that.
I think they will release it. She may come like in a couple of days.
Yeah, I knew I'd heard that like they'd given info on that, but they haven't released it in game.
And by the way, as a
specific.
And by the way, as a reminder, the fact that she comes out pretty soon doesn't mean that the current step-up banner is a drop banner. Thank you very much.
That's correct. We talked about that last week.
We've talked about that.
Yeah, as far as
Was it last week or a couple weeks ago?
SINoAlice goes,
I think it was 2 weeks ago.
Okay. As far as SINoAlice goes, I don't know that much about what's coming aside from 2B. But I like 2B, so I'm saving at the moment and going to pull for her. Aside from that, I honestly don't. I'm not one who tends to look ahead real far. I tend to kind of save until I see a unit that I want.
Okay, so it's less of a hard preparation and more of a, oh, sure, I will try to get this unit while it's there.
I mean, I do prepare. It's just that I don't necessarily know what I'm preparing for ahead of time.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
So you're sort of a Gacha doomsday prepper.
I mean, I guess you could say that. I will say on Arknights, I am looking forward to Nian and gonna pull for her. With what I've got. So, those are kind of what I have there that I'm looking forward to.
So which unit you said?
Neon. We've talked about her. She's the arts tank. The one who does the magic counter damage. Yeah.
Okay. All right then.
Back when I was playing FFBE, I actually really looked forward to Malphasy, and I got lucky and got one of her on the free ticket that we got whenever she was released.
And that wasn't even when Ravenheart became super broken.
Right. So I loved Malphasy. That was honestly, that was maybe my favorite unit in the game.
Ooh.
So I got lucky and got her, but I really liked her design. And she had a good amount of utility and everything too, so
yeah.
Oh, so that's why we heard a bird falling down instead of a clap early on. It's because you like throwing birds at people. Okay, it all makes sense now. No then, but on that topic, I am really intrigued to see what they're going to do with this year's batch of contest units.
Yeah.
In particular, I want that Chocobo Big Band in my team.
What about you, Galen? I know you're looking forward to Nian and Arknights.
Yeah, she's the only one who really is. Unfortunately, I have a problem with that. My problem is the two units that I need the most in terms of unit composition. Although one of those has been a little lessened. Those are the two limited time units.
No.
So that hurts. Neon was in Hong Kong for the Lunar New Year, for Chinese New Year. Which obviously became problematic right out of the gate. And then the second one is for the 1 year anniversary that I'm looking forward to is the AoE Sniper W, who is actually a enemy boss unit who you could actually get.
Sick.
And she's amazing. She's a fire demon, if by, fire we mean actual. She carries a lot of firepower. Her primary weapon is a 40mm grenade launcher, and she follows up with sticky mines, land mines, and frag grenades. So,
sorry, you said she was a sniper?
Sniper in hard air quotes. Sniper is the character class, but she doesn't snipe squat.
Yeah, no, but I still like the fact that sniper characters have crossbows and rocket launchers and grenade launchers.
It's a modern game. That actually got lessened 2 days ago. One of the things I like about Arknights is you'll have every 2 weeks a different 6-star and a different 5-star character come up on the distinction shop. And as you get units, you get certain certificates. And if you get enough gold certificates from 5 or 6-star units or even duplicate 4-star units, you can eventually buy a 5-star. I just bought the 5-star of that same class that W is, a character named Meteorite, and I just got her, and I'm like, yes, this is good.
So you have a bit of a W light.
I have a W light now, which is great, because W isn't going to show up for like 5 months at least.
Good.
Which means you have plenty of time to save for her.
Yes, which is very nice. It also means I'm not struggling on this character class, which was one of my weaknesses. Unfortunately, like, the 2 limited characters represent classes I'm actually weak in. My best magic tank, really the only magic tank in the game, and what I mean by magic tank is not the FFBE version, literally a tank that does magic damage. Currently, my best one is Durdar, who I mentioned her before as a free unit you can get. Unfortunately, I overestimated how good she is. She really... I need to figure out what the heck is going on, because she's really not that great. Like, her numbers just aren't there.
One of the things I wanted to bring up, actually, when it came to waiting for units and waiting for something to spend your saved resources on. It's times in the past where we've done that, and whether it paid off as impressively as we thought or not.
Yeah.
Of course, in this case, it's more unit that you're taking because you don't have a big, angry, fiery replacement.
Yeah. Although she's less angry and fiery, and despite being a demon, definitely has more of a cute and psycho vibe. We like her, though.
If you say so. On my end, I remember in particular, at first when playing FFBE, I didn't really say for anyone in particular, because when we took the game, I basically went, here I'm going to spend things, and if I get what I want, great. If I don't, well, I guess I'm going to play another game. And I got an A2 from that, and I used her for pretty much the better part of the year that came next. Because she was
A2 was
pretty
good for a long while.
good. Yeah, she had a long shelf life for DPS.
Yeah.
And it was still the 6-star meta, so I only needed 1. Also, as a backup plan, I still had an Orlando, so that was very usable for a very long time either. So I was comfortable for a while. The units I've mostly stayed for, it's an interesting contrast, because there were mainly 2 Shantoros, the Livid one and the Wizardverse one. The Livid one being, when it comes to stats and actual use in the game, not very good. I still used her for a while, if only as a Rainbow Whip wielder. Because in general she was still great as a convenience. But even then, I didn't go hard enough to go for her STMR or something crazy like that.
Right.
Unlike Wizardverse Shantoto, which I'm still using to this day, because she might not be top DPS, but she still has some good use, both as a convenience, being a CG unit that deals non-elemental damage. That's great for clearing 99% of the stages you auto.
Right.
Generally, at this point in Mug King events, I'm not even fulfilling all party slots. I leave one open with either a Shantoto or a Bahamut Fina, because that's just easier this way. I don't have to gear up the other units that are going to change in a couple of weeks anyway.
Right.
Just throw Moon at people and get rewards from it.
That makes sense.
And for
Throwing
this
the
one,
moon brings
I've been...
Kakarot to a whole new level.
Really does.
Indeed. And that was something I've said for a while, and I'm glad that in this part, not only was the unit fun to use, it also kept a pretty decent shelf life as well. And even when she falls out of use, I have her STMR, and 85 magic on her robe is best in slot in a lot of cases still. So it's nice to look back at some not quite investments, but because I didn't hard spend to get her at all or anything. I did spend some money for an additional pool, but I still had lapis in the that I could bank, and I just wanted to throw money at the game because of how they've improved. And so what I mean is that having the moment where you're pulling for the unit is nice at the time, but using this unit for a while, if you've basically convinced yourself to be invested in it, is a nice way to enjoy the game on the longer term. Which is why not having a specific unit in the long term to really look forward to and save for is a bit weird right now.
Yeah.
I'm weird like that.
Yeah.
No, I mean, for my case regarding what's coming next with Envy and all that. Also, Madame Edel fell off quick, didn't she?
Kind of a shame.
Yeah.
Because I know how much you were
but
looking
even
forward
though
to.
I still have the same her STMR, which is pretty usable. But I haven't used her nearly as much as I'd have wanted, perhaps. But hey, since both the units I wanted came basically back to back, the fact that I saved enough meant that I could get the both of them and not get surprised or baited. Yes, I'm going to use that word ironically from now on and make it mine.
Yeah, I can't argue with that.
So, any other similar thoughts on things you saved for in the past?
Well, saved for, yes. Spent ridiculously on is kind of more my thing, because that was actually the behavior that got me out of gacha games basically forever until Arknights came around.
Yeah.
And that was Valkyrie Anatomia, actually. And the stupid Beach Hrist, who I knew I didn't need, knew I didn't want, and got stuck trying to brute force anyway. God, I hate myself for that. I really do. That was such a
And you've learned
decision.
your lesson from that, so I think you can hate your past then.
Yes, I can definitely hate my past self. I have not managed to make that mistake on Arknights. I'm actually saving up, 3 resources for the Neon Pulse, so, I'm actually doing my job and just being extra cautious with my pulse. I actually skipped a standard headhunting banner this week, because I had a choice between spending 45 distinctions on Meteorite or trying to roll for her, and I just went, well, she's in the shop, so let's just buy her and get this over with, and that's exactly what I did.
And to the defense of your past self, SINoAlice does have an attack animation where she turns the enemy into a giant watermelon before splitting it with a halberd.
That was a really weird attack animation, to be perfectly honest.
I liked it.
Animation, Rena?
Summer Hrist.
Summer Hrist.
Oh.
Hrist was always one of my longtime favorites from Valka Profile in general. And I kind of felt she had a raw deal. So the fact that that story was even treating Hrist as an actual character, however fanservice-y, as opposed to a give me my own game please awful joke, that made her a lot more attractive to me than it should have.
Of course.
And that ended up with me getting frustrated when I didn't get her, and I ended up pulling up my wallet, and that just made me realize that I had made a critical and devastating mistake.
Something that you've realized and worked on since then.
Yes.
Thankfully.
And I've managed to avoid that in Arknights, but then again, Arknights is also not a game that demands your pulling attention all that much. Its primary source of income seems to be buying costumes, which I will admit I have a costume fund. I've spent money on the game for that, but that's guaranteed, and that's something I do anyway. I buy costume DLC for console games all the time. That's not even new for me.
Yeah.
Like, I've done that for years. You should see my Dynasty Warriors DLC list. It's massive.
Also, as a quick digression, because I was looking for the animation I was talking about, I've been looking up at the Valkyrie Anatomia wiki. They're still releasing the events, and the latest unit is Adult Yolanda, and I'm okay with that.
Adult Yolanda? You know what? Can we take a moment next week to maybe talk about what's going on in Japan with Valkyrie? Because I kind of want to hear what's going on with Valkyrie in Japan and how they are continuing to exist.
Yeah, because the game only stops operations in global.
Correct.
I've posted the picture I was talking about in Gathering Observations, by the way.
Yeah, let me see this.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the game again in depth at some point anyway, because
I'm impressed at her
I'm
existence.
going to catch up on the story.
Yeah. Yeah, we it's a game that deserves a proper wrap-up.
Yes.
It's a game that deserves a proper wrap-up.
Indeed. And that's honestly, to circle back around to our topic, that's one of the things that I kind of pushed me away. It wasn't the one factor, but one of the things that contributed to having a breaking point and stop really playing the game was the fact that I was going hard on resources I've saved for 2B, and then for the Anniversary Valkyrie, and then for the other Anniversary Valkyrie, and that I got neither of those three.
Yeah.
So it's also system dependent. Like, I know that if I save 37,000 lapis in FFV EGL, I will have the unit I want, period.
Right.
Once again, always consider the worst possible case scenario.
Yeah, and in the case of these tickets, in Arknights, going back around to that, like, yeah. on the one that I'm actually looking at, the gamble chance isn't a 2%, it's a 33% chance, and the other 66 aren't exactly a negative benefit or a problem for me, because I'm either improving my best tank or improving one of my best hitters. Like,
exactly.
None of this is bad. So
yeah,
that's odds I'm okay with. 33% chance for a grand prize, and the runners up aren't exactly a slouch. I think we can agree that's pretty good. And
actually, one of the best resources that's available for World of Visions is one of the Google Docs with release schedules, character overviews, and a calculation of expected values, where they take the chances of an on-banner UR unit, which is generally what you're going for, and they tell you if you spend, for instance, 2,000 Visio, you have a 7.72% chance to get at least one. So I know that even if I burn all of my 35,000 Visio hoard, I still only have a 75% chance to get the unit I want.
I mean,
that's not ideal, but knowing that in advance at least
it lets you go in,
accept the possibility.
Yeah, it lets you go in educated, and I think that's the most important part.
Yeah, and the fact that it's not a limited unit means that there'll be other chances.
Right.
And at this point, I already have several of her shots. So yeah. Spend responsibly, save as you want, and play your games in a way that makes you happy.
Absolutely. That is all the time we have for this week. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Sorry, I for one was so out of it this week. It's been a rough time lately.
I think it's been a rough time
again.
for pretty much everybody.
Pretty much everyone. Y'all are fantastic. We love our audience. Thank you guys so much, and we will be back next week with more of the games you love to hate. Have a good one, y'all.
See
Bye,
ya.
y'all.